Well, welcome to December's technical training meeting. Here's our agenda for today. Just first off, some training opportunities coming up. I don't have any other details besides what's here on the screen for the National Home Performance Conference and the Energy Out West conferences next year. And then Justin, you want to talk about the EPI training coming up?
Good morning, everyone. We are holding a EAQCI test prep and certification class for March 18th through the 21st. I sent an email out stating that there's 3 spots available. So the first 3 that can submit an approval letter from BPI to challenge the exams will get that spot. If you submit and the spots are taken, we do plan to hold a second class later on this year, and you will be put on that list to attend that class. If you have any questions regarding the application process or the required documentation, please reach out to me. And I need to have those approval letters submitted the end of day February 9th. But again, if you are struggling or have any questions, please feel free to reach out and I can help you.
All right. We'll just get right into our Kahoot exercise game, I guess, that Kaya has created for us.
Nikole did.
Oh, Nikole did. Sorry. Is that what we need for this one?
No, Nikole share her screen. But just go to https:/Kahoot it, and it should give you this home screen that's in the upper right corner. And then Nikole, you could add in the game pin. So Nikole, if you want to share your screen, or do you want me to?
Do I need to stop presenting for you?
Sorry, I was trying to share and it wasn't letting me unmute while I was doing that. So I do plan on sharing it. So I'm on one screen here, so you might get some weirdness, but
don't make it weird, Nikole.
It's not gonna do it. Deal with it, guys. Not used to one screen. Can y'all see it? Yes. All right. There's your game pin for the Kahoot. I'll wait for you to join. This is kind of the pre-game for the BWR training. So there's only a few questions on it. It's not very long. Just kind of an introduction. Get everybody awake, everybody participating. This training today is really just going to be me walking through the BWR guide. So there shouldn't be any groundbreaking information in it. It's really just an introduction. If you haven't had the chance to go look at the BWR guide, if you are somebody who thinks you don't need it because you've been doing it for so long, just getting a glance at it, getting a look at it. It's an open forum type training. I want you guys' feedback, participation, questions, anything. I want you to open your mouths and ask it. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes for everybody to join. At 21, that's pretty close to almost everybody that's in the meeting. Let's see. Don't have anybody. Oh, there's one more. I don't want to leave anybody out that wants to play. If there's somebody.
Did you guys get to pick the character? Because I'm a donkey.
Yeah, you can pick the character. You just have to. There's like a little edit button on your character.
I'm just wondering if you set that up on purpose. Yeah.
Oh.
For you.
No. You get to pick it yourself. That was just by chance. It knew, you know.
All right. I think I've given everybody enough time. If somebody wants to speak up and say, I'm still trying to get in, don't start. Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right. And away we go. I should use the BWR guide whenever I have a question on the BWR I am working on. True or false? True. That should be obvious. If you guys have a question, the first place that you should go is that BWR guide. It's, as you're going to see today, hopefully, it's going to answer most of the questions that you have when completing the BWR. You go there. I have a lot of references straight to guidelines. So if you go to the section, a lot of times it's going to tell you where in the guidelines you can find the answer. It's going to give you the answer on the guide, but then show you where in guidelines to get that answer and why the answer is the answer. Who's up first? S. Mysterious S.
Mr. S.
Mr. S. All right, you can keep it up. Number 2, the state does not use the info reported on the BWRs to report to DOE, HHS, etc., complete production reports, torture me, gather statistics to help develop state plan. As much as it may feel like it, we don't make you complete BWRs to torture you. It's not intended to be torture. We use the BWRs for a lot of things. We realize that Web Grants is not a perfect system. We don't absolutely love it. And there's things that we wish that it did differently, did better. But it is what we have to work with right now. And we do use it for a lot of different things. We use it to do our reports to the different places that we need to report to. We do it to record your production. We do it to gather statistics. There's a lot of things that we use it for, but no, we do not use it to torture you, I promise. All right.
Who's Minivan fan moving up in the ranking?
Mr. S is still at top, though. All right. Number 3, the information on the weatherization BWR is the exact same as a crisis BWR. True or false?
Pure genius, huh, Scott?
All right. That is false. A lot of the information is the same, but there are some distinct areas where crisis BWR is different. The biggest one being your comments. We need more comments about your crisis than we do about weatherization. The file on your weatherization has a lot more information in it than a file on crisis does. And we use that crisis BWR to gather some of that information. And so we ask for a little bit more on it. We'll see that today as we go along the guide. Scoreboard, Mr. S, still top spot. Here we go. I should calculate the total in the household by adding all other household boxes together. There's a little example there. So the other household boxes we're talking about: elderly, Native American, the different children boxes, the disabled box. Do we add all of those together to come up with the total in the household? That is false. We don't. There may be more. So let's use an example here. I was going to get into it when we do it, but hey, let's do it right here. Say we have a household of 1, and it's an elderly lady who is also disabled. So we have a 1 in elderly, and we have a 1 in disabled. That doesn't make the household 2. The household is still just 1. And that's what I meant by that question. Hopefully it wasn't trickery. Oh, he got booted. Minivan fan. I wonder who that is.
Did you give him all the answers?
I did not. I would never give him the answers. All right, last question. According to the BWR Completion Guide, what is the most important box to fill out on the BWR? Approving QCI, comment section, client type, or approval date. It is the comment section. So 11 of you got that right. Comment section is the most important box. You know, I can't say most important. Every box on the BWR is important. We're going to discuss why that's so. But we're also going to discuss why on the BWR completion guide does it say that the comment section is the most important. We're going to get there. So let's see. Who won? Number 3, Chris. Good job. Number 2, U-Bag. And number 1, Gilgamesh. Congratulations. Whoever you are, would you like to claim your glory, Gilgamesh?
Yeah, I'll take claim over
Waldo?
Good job, Aldo.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. Like I said, basically what we're going to be doing is just walking through the BWR guide today. For those of you who have never pulled it up, I hope there's nobody. I really hope there's nobody who is that completes BWRs that has never pulled up the BWR guide. In fact, I'm going to go just to make sure y'all know where it's at. You should know. You should know, but in case you don't, you go to our webpage, Building Weatherization Report, BWR Completion Guide, right here, and I'll pull it up for you. Again, I'm going to repeat myself here. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, guys. Nothing groundbreaking here. We are just going to be walking through this together. If you have questions, anything, I'm sharing my screen, so I'm not going to see you raise your hand. But I got all my friends here surrounding me. Like I said, we are down here in 5 County doing our monitoring. So they will let me know if someone raises their hand, has a question, has a comment. I'm going to be asking for those things throughout this. So don't be shy. All right, so this is page 1 of the BWR completion guide. As you see in that upper left-hand corner, it gives a little FYI, a little why, I guess. If y'all have gotten to know me at all, the why is a big thing for me. That's why we're doing this training. That's why we're going over all of these things to hopefully help you understand the why behind the BWRs. The first thing I have to say about it is the importance of the correct BWR reporting. The state uses the BWR as an initial monitoring tool. Accurate reporting leads to a smoother process for both the state and the agency. And that's just something for you to remember. You know, that really is it. It is our initial monitoring tool. It is where we're getting your numbers, what you're reporting, what your completions are. And as the Kahoot quiz pointed out, there's a lot of things that we get out of the BWRs. And that's why it's so important that the information that's input into the BWR is correct information. So the first 2 pages of the BWR guide are the index. And you can go to any one of these, click on it, and it'll take you straight to that part of the BWR guide. So say you have questions on weatherization readiness. These are hyperlinks. You click on that, it's going to take you to that exact page that you need to go to so that you don't have to go through the entire guide. Another thing that you can do is the find function does work on it. When you're in Google Slides, it is just going to search the current page that you're on. But say you just can't see what you're looking for. If you hold down your control button, press the letter F, it brings up this find box up here. And say I'm looking for SHPO stuff. I type in SHPO, and it is going to highlight those SHPO areas that you can click on. Close that box, just like that. So that's kind of a technology thing most people probably are aware of, but some may not be. So I know sometimes I do it where I'm looking at something and it's right there in front of my face, but I cannot find it. Was there a question? All right, so we'll keep going. So it does absolutely follow along with the BWR. So I'm gonna go here just to show you. If we're looking at a BWR, this is what it looks like for us once you guys submit it. Starts at the top, building report, client information, building improvements. As you're going along the BWR guide index and then into the guide, it follows that exactly. So it's going to go straight down just as you're seeing on the BWR. It goes and is going to follow it down. So if you're using this, especially as a new employee, and you're using this as your guide, it's going to follow it all the way down. So we're going to start right at the top here. So some of these things may be super obvious, especially to those of you who have been completing these for a long time. Other things might not be as obvious. This completion guide is really going to depend on where you're at, who's completing it, and so forth. When I ask the question in the Kahoot, like I'm using, where should I go? Where should I go to answer a question on a BWR? This is it. This is why, this is where. There are some of you out there, and everybody's different, as we all know. All of you guys are different. There's some agencies out there, it's been the same person completing the BWRs for years, and you feel like you don't, need this guide. But there might be a situation that comes up that you might find that this could be helpful for even you. And then there are other agencies out there that have new people completing the BWR, the BWRs on a consistent basis, and this is used more as a training guide for them. And that's a question that I do have on here is, how are you using the BWR guide? Is it just for those random times that you don't know how to complete it? Or are you using it as a guide for your new people? That's something that I want you to let me know. I want you to email me if you see things on here that you think are missing or lacking. I want to know about it. This is a living document. If any of you have this printed out, I would ask that you don't do that, that you go to that link that I showed you on our website and you go to the current version. This is a live living document. I will be making changes. I'm not going to always announce those changes. I'm going to be adjusting it to meet the needs of you guys. This guide is for you. So if there's something that you would like to see added, I want to hear that feedback. I want to know. And I want you to be using the current version because it may change from just based off of things that we have to report. The most recent thing, and we'll get there, is the RMP rebates. RMP is asking for a little bit more information to be on them. And so that information is now on the guide. It wasn't there when I first created the guide, and it is now. So that's why I want you to be using the live version. All right, so at the top, BWR type. This should be obvious to those of you who are familiar with weatherization. If you're not so familiar with weatherization, you may not know. So these hyperlinks that are by each of the sections of the BWR type is going to tell you what is a weatherization completion, what is partial weatherization. All of these are crisis, cooling, heating, water heater, other crisis. It's going to tell you what are those, what is a WAPBIL weatherization completion. Again, most of you just are automatically going to know this. But if you have new people that are using this as a guide, they can actually hop into our guidelines right from here. Let me show you an example. Let's look at cooling, C3.7. I click on this hyperlink. It is going to take me right to the page that C3.7 is on and tell me what a cooling crisis is. So this is a great thing to be used as a training tool. Again, when you have newbies, even if you have a newbie, if you have a new field crew person, it's something of that nature that doesn't necessarily complete the BWRs, they might find some use out of this if you direct them to it. So teach them how to get into the guidelines where things may be, things such as that. The only note that I have on here is there's no duplicate reporting. I haven't seen this in a while, but it was something that I was seeing when I was first completing BWRs. And that was on the crisis, there would be a separate BWR for a heating job and a cooling job. And we're just asking that whatever initiated that crisis is what they're both reported under. We don't want to see those two separately. So if you were called out because their furnace is broken, you replace the furnace, and in the process you end up replacing the AC as well, that's only reported as a heating crisis. We don't need two separate jobs reported on that. That is one completion. And let's go next one. Job number. This is specific to your agency. This can be used to search the BWR. Oh. This is used to search the BWR, but this is specific to you. So it doesn't have to be any specific thing. We don't even necessarily need this information, but this is for your information that it correlates it to however you are numbering that job. The heat application case number. So again, this should be obvious. The heat application case number is what is on their heat certificate. There is a case number on that. And we want the number of when they qualified for weatherization. It may change if you have to recertify them. That number might change. It may not. It kind of depends. I'm not going to get into eligibility there, but we just want to make sure that we have that correct number. That is important when we're looking at qualification and does the customer qualify. And then if it's not a heat certified person and it's DOE, that's all you type in, just DOE. So there's no heat certification, you just type in DOE. And then on the award date here, you just type in the date that you determined that they were DOE qualified. If it is heat certificate, that award date is the date that they did qualify. That award date is an important date. We don't want to see that date, say they were qualified for heat, and this is a little bit of intake training, I guess. We don't want to see that they're qualified for heat, say in October of last year. Oops. What's going on? Of October of last year, and the work date started to date. Are they qualified? Are they qualified? If heat, the last time that they qualified for that was last October, and we're starting that audit today? No, they're not. So those are important dates for us. So we just want to make sure that award date and that work start date are correlating. The work start date, again, should be an obvious date. A work start date is the date you start that energy audit. When I'm looking at a client file, I consider that work start date the day that you did that blower door, because that should be done on day one, right? Next section. Not every single one of these boxes is circled and explained. A lot of them I consider to be just, this is information that should be like, duh, right? Self-explanatory, as Scott just said, yes. But if there's anything that you guys think that does need more explanation, or because you're using it as a training guide, that parts would be useful to have further explanation, let me know. Really let me know. This was the section that the Kahoot quiz was on, and I already kind of explained that this total in household, it does not mean that you total all of those boxes. You may have 3 children, 2 of those kids are disabled, it's going to change. So the total in the household is the total qualified members in the household. It's not necessarily the total of all these qualified boxes. This is a good example. High energy user, high energy burden. We know where we find this information, or we should know where to find it. Again, as I reference, it'll take you to the guidelines. It'll explain these things. This is why this could be a really great training guide for new employees, or if you don't understand a specific thing of why we're asking for what we're asking for in the BWR. The answer to that really is that we use this information. We really do use it. This high energy user, high energy burden. This is something that we would probably be gathering for statistic purposes. It could be used for reporting. It's important for us to have this information and for it to be accurate, for us to get the most information off of the homes that we are currently weatherizing. Same with all of these areas, the building type, the sample type, the year built. This one, we want that year built, whether it's SHPO or not. So even if the home is less than 50 years old, we want that year built. When we're looking at a BWR, we don't know if we're supposed to have this Appendix A SHPO approval information on here if we don't know what year the home was built. So this is one that we seem to have a lot of questions on, has always been something of a confusion, the Appendix A work and the SHPO approval. If the home is 50 years old, you must have one as yes and the other as no. So at no time, if this home is over 50 years old, should both of these be marked yes, or both of these be marked no. If the home is newer than that, that's a possibility, but that they would both be marked no. But one should be marked yes, one should be marked no. Building information, just a whole lot of more statistical stuff that we use. And then this is a really important one here, and most of you should know or do know that the Rocky Mountain Power Project, this little box here is what spurs that extra worksheet to come up for you to fill out when you're claiming a R&P rebate. So if it is a project that you're wanting to claim that R&P rebate on, this needs to be marked yes. Oh, what else? So I'm going to go back to all of this stuff is important. Every single box, every single drop down, it's all important to be accurate to the case. Again, for the purposes that we use this BWR, it's not to torture you. It's to use for clarification, for statistics, for information that we need. Sometimes that's reporting. Sometimes that's things that we just want to see as a state. What are we doing? How many homes, of this sort are we doing? The primary heating sources, this sort that are we doing? How often are we seeing this? Do we need to change things? Do we use this information? It is important information. Every single box on here is important information. Please don't skip boxes. Please don't, think that something isn't as important as something else. Is there any questions so far up to this point? All right, moving on as we drop on down. So the building improvements. This one is especially important when you are claiming an R&P rebate. There might be some things that I may be adding in the future to here. I'm not seeing them quite as often, but I do see it on occasion. And that's the perimeter versus the wall insulation. That's a big difference when it comes to R&P rebates. It's also important that you're triple checking those numbers, making sure that you have the correct information in here for the R&P rebate when that is being claimed. I mean, again, it should always be accurate information, but when it's that R&P rebate, what you put in here may qualify or disqualify you from the tariff that we have with them getting that rebate back. So this is a very important section for us. And all of these things here, I hope that this is super clear to you guys. I hope that you like it. I hope that it makes it easy for you to go to a specific spot and see more information on it. Here, the heating system initial status, something that very self-explanatory to most of us, I think. But if you want a little bit more information on that, you can come to my guide and you can see that more information and you can see why. Again, great training guide, but also for those of you who've been doing this forever and are getting stuck on something, I'm hoping that this helps. If, especially you guys that have been using this for a while, or doing BWRs, not using this, but doing BWRs. And I'm saying, go to the BWR guide if you've got a question and you go and you're not seeing the answer to that question, please reach out to me. Let me be the second person that you go to ask the question to, because that's a learning experience for me and gives me more information that I know that I need to add to this guide to help you guys out.
Man,
Nicole,
that's
could I
great.
ask a question on this slide?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Could I ask a question on this slide?
Yes.
For building improvements, what are you considering perimeter?
Turner, will you take that?
It's the seal box installation.
Okay, so then what would you consider foundation insulation? Wall insulation?
Yes. Yeah, for the rebates purposes, I'm fairly certain on that. I'll pull up my rebate guide in a second and double check it though.
Last question would be duct insulation. I've heard that sometimes you guys want some more clarification if there is no duct insulation and we're not adding duct insulation. Does that sound?
I don't know. Has the team been asking for clarification on that?
I haven't. I don't know. Rogers.
I can't remember where the feedback came from, but I remember one time I was asked to add more clarification whether we're adding duct, like why there's no duct insulation, to basically say that it's because it's inside of the conditioned space. But in other cases, when it's in unconditioned space, we would report, what's existing and what we added or didn't add. But I guess I'm just curious, like your guys' thoughts on that. Is that clear when we're reporting zeros? Do you guys, has that ever even occurred? Like, yeah, is that a question that you guys have had?
It's not
I think if
for me,
you report a zero, we assume that you didn't install it. Right? Is that?
And that's as far as that goes. You guys don't need any clarification more than that?
Will you go to the Google Drive and pull up my rebate? I think it's like Matt's rebate. Just search for
Waldo,
it.
there probably should be some information whether or not they have central air conditioning or electric heat in their house.
Yeah, that's one that I've understood that has to be on every BWR.
Mm-hmm.
That one I understand. I guess the
Guides.
ductwork one time threw me off because, yeah, I didn't
Were we
understand.
actually monitoring your job? Because sometimes,
No.
oh, okay, because like I would see why that question would come up if we saw that there was a discrepancy on your BWR versus us monitoring, like doing an actual monitoring on that specific job.
Right. No, this was a while ago. This was probably like 6 or 7 months ago, and yeah, I randomly have that question in my head if I need to clarify more on the ductwork or not. I usually leave it blank and don't leave a comment anyways. But yes, yeah, it's just been something that's been on my mind since I heard about it.
It should show.
And then yeah, I was reporting the way I asked on the perimeter and wall, like foundation insulation. I was reporting it that way. I was just double checking because that's always been something that's always kind of been on my mind too.
Waldo, I think I've got an answer for you. Nicole's trying to open up something I just shared with her. So yeah.
I've kind of had a question on existing ductwork on mobile homes, whether to put it if they're insulated or not, because the ductwork's between the thermal boundary and the air boundary.
So, in answer to Waldo's question, sometimes there are beginning parameters and then ending parameters that the rebates, it'll kind of disqualify you for the rebates. For example, if you look at attic insulation
I'm
here.
going to actually go to the guide because this is on the guide. Sorry.
Oh, good deal.
Guys, I am. hopping around here. Hopefully I'm not confusing you.
But if you look at attic insulation, attic insulation says that you can qualify for a rebate up to an R48 when you start with something less than an R30. And I'm assuming there may be some similar things going on with duct insulation and stuff. Is there? Do we have to start with a zero, or I might have to look at the tariff more closely to see if that triggers some of the stuff on rebates.
There is the link to the
Yeah,
tariff.
I wish I had a better example to tell you. I want to say it was something maybe like that there wasn't enough duct insulation, like say it was less than the required amount, and we reported that we didn't add any. I think it was just, if I remember right, I think it was just kind of like a question like, why didn't we add any? Like, but then that to me should have been explained inside of the file, not the BWR itself. But I guess that's kind of, I'm also trying to remember off of memory. This isn't something that happened recently.
Yeah, well, and that's, we don't want to make you guys put every detail back in here. At some point, we have to just be comfortable with knowing that you guys should have a good understanding of what the rebates are, that you're applying for the rebates when you can. But when we do see a pattern within the program where everybody has a misunderstanding, or we're seeing lots of mistakes with something, we sometimes will get clearer. But I don't, yeah, if nothing's coming to mind, I would say you're safe to not worry about adding those extra notes or comments, because I'm not aware of anybody on the team that's been asking for that. But
Yeah, also that if it was like 8 or 10 months ago or whatever, there was also new people learning BWRs, many of us. So
Yeah.
that might have just been not understanding, like, and so they were asking more qualifying questions.
Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah.
Might be, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm satisfied with that. Yeah, thank you.
So stay here for just a second. I just wanted to make one comment, and then I wanted to get back to Kurt's question. On the attic insulation, energy auditors, don't round up. If you get up in an attic and you're thinking, this is like an R26, don't round it up to an R30. Because if you round it up to an R30, you will disqualify that job from being eligible for rebates. Like, be very accurate on what whatever your determination is. Don't change it to try and make the house eligible. If it's an R30, put it down as an R30, but be careful not to just round it up, because that's kind of a simple thing that you tend to do without really thinking about it. In some cases, it can disqualify the home for it. So, okay, Kurt, what was your question again?
So on the mobile homes, on the existing ductwork on the BWR, I had a question in my mind what to put as far as existing, because like in the audit you can put in the ductworks below the installations below the ductwork. Just how to evaluate that on the BWR. What would you put, like if it has a belly material under the ductwork? Can we put that as like existing installation, and what would that look like, if that makes sense? Because it's between the air barrier and the thermal boundary. I've always just had a question on where you put the insulation at.
Based on the way we're currently using that data is really to determine whether or not it qualifies for a rebate. So, and then looking at the rebate guide we were looking at a minute ago, it's really just, are you adding insulation? So in this case, I don't think that the value that you put in the existing column, or the data you put in the existing column, has much value to us.
Okay, that's what
I don't think it's going to alter anything. We may want to test it though and see if you put something there, but then you also added somewhere else. I don't think it does anything with the RMP addendum. But if it does, then we'd want to be careful to make sure we're putting the right information in it so that our RMP addendum will work.
Yeah.
But in this case, you could really put in, if you've got a belly insulation under it and you wanted to indicate that it was insulated, you can put that there's an R19 there or something, whatever the thickness is. But But I think also it's safe for us to assume if you've got a 0 there that, well, we just don't have enough information. That information is going to be in the file. It's either inside the condition space, which in that example, you could consider that being inside the condition space, or there was no duct system there, you know. So either way, we don't have enough data here. We'd have to go looking in the file, but I think the goal, especially for this section, is to show which of the rebates that you are eligible for. And we are, even if you're not eligible for a rebate, we do use the data, like when you are adding insulation to walls, adding insulations to floors and things like that. We have used that data a number of times in different analyses that we've done. We don't report that data like quarterly or annually to anybody, but we have, there's been probably a dozen or more times when we've gone back looking at that data to try to find answers for the program. So I guess 2 answers there. One of them, first and foremost, use this to make sure that you're representing what you're going after for rebates. And then secondly, if you're not going after rebates, you know, you still need to try and keep this information as accurate as possible so that when we're looking at it, to try and answer some of those ad hoc questions that come up, that we'll have reasonably good data.
Yep, understood.
All right, moving
I was
on.
going to say that the only other caveat to that too is it also can relate to your MMBTUs and things like that. So it's still like important, just reiterating what Turner said, is to still fill out it accurately. So if it means you put a 0 in the duct insulation because there wasn't any, but there also wasn't an opportunity to insulate, so you didn't add any, that's okay. Fill it out accurately that you didn't add any if there wasn't an opportunity, but still fill it out accurately so we can see and pull that data together.
All right, so just moving along, I'll speed it up here. All these boxes gives a little bit more information on each one. And we keep, you know, pressing how important accuracy is and why it's important and what we're using this BWR information for. You know, I started off with it. Turner's said it as well. Like, we use this for a lot of different avenues. It's not just one thing that this information is being used for. So accuracy is key. If you have questions on it, come here first. If it's not answering your question, come to me. I am your expert on the BWR information. If I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer, tell you where you can find the answer. Next section here is the cost section. I'm wondering if anybody has any specific questions on this section, things that you don't quite understand, aren't quite clear. Anybody have anything here? Okay, the basics of it are, and y'all should know it, but for weatherization work, these are the material costs only, just as it says, it is only material costs. For crisis, that is different, and that will include labor costs. But overall, this gives you more information on some of these sections. These 2, I'm going to highlight the water heater. This should only have something in it if the water heater is crisis. If the water heater is done as health and safety, it's going to be in that health and safety line. So that's something that we already should know, but maybe is a kind, friendly reminder. The weatherization readiness, that also is going to be something that's always going to be a 0. We've asked for you guys to do the reporting of the weatherization readiness a little bit differently, and putting that in the comment section. That does have to do with the limitations of web grants. You know, hopefully again in the future this might change and we might have something that meets our needs a little bit better, but as of right now, this is the best way for us to do this. It has the information on what we've asked you so far to do, and on reporting those weatherization readiness jobs. This is a hyperlink that'll take you to what exactly we've asked. I know that we do now have the new weatherization readiness report that Matt is asking of you guys. So we may change this here soon. We're going to be discussing that and if we can make it a little simpler for you guys. So one more reason, check the guide occasionally and see if there's been any changes to certain sections. This is in reference to the Kahoot quiz, the most important box on the BWR right here. That's what it says. So when it asked, what according to the guide is the most important box on the BWR? This is it, and this is why. These are our reasons why. This first slide is the weatherization comments section and what we expect on those comments. So the only thing that needs to be there every single time is the cooling information. That is for a few different reasons, statistics, reporting, but we need to know on every single job on the cooling information. But if it's weatherization, you don't necessarily need a whole ton of comments unless there's something on the BWR that might look different. If it's not something that's typical, if it's something that's going to make one of us state workers that are approving that BWR go, huh? Like, why is this number like that? Why? If you look at it and go, huh? That looks weird. We're going to do that too, and we're going to ask that question. So that's when in this comment part, you should be explaining to us why. But if it's a usual weatherization case and there's nothing odd about it that sticks out, that you think sticks out, you don't really need a lot of comments in that section. We get this information that's in the file. It has right on here. Do not provide a narrative that the client file should explain. We're not trying to double your work. You don't need a bunch of information on it unless, like I said, unless it really needs it. On that previous page that had the weatherization readiness, the comment section of a weatherization readiness job, that is the hyperlink. It would take you right here to this. And it gives you the information on what we're currently asking for and how you're reporting that. And currently that is in the comments section. All of these you just want as accurate as possible. We know. Moving on to the crisis comments box and how it's different. This is one of the main ways. There's, several other boxes that we all know. You're not going to have information for some of the things on this BWR, like some of these things here. You're not going to have this information on a crisis. So that's one reason that crisis BWRs are different. Going back to the Kahoot quiz. The second reason is the comments. We do expect more information in the comments of a crisis. Crisis jobs should have a brief narrative of all the work that was done. We don't need it detailed, but we do need a narrative on why it was done. Explain if the crisis, this is something that I think a lot of you are missing. We'd like to know if the crisis is a client application or if it's been agency identified. Again, this is for statistical purposes, for data analysis, for us to go back and look and see these things. That's something that we would like you to include in those crisis comments. A crisis also, it's supposed to explain what triggered the crisis and what was done. Those are the two main things on a crisis. Like, why were you called out there in the first place? And then why did you do what you did? We get some very vague comments on that, and it might be self-explanatory to you guys, but sometimes it's not explanatory to us. So maybe give us a little bit more information when it comes to these crisis jobs. It says right here, vague statements are unacceptable. And we get a lot of these. Furnace making funny noise, replaced. It's not an acceptable comment, guys. We need more information than that. We need to know why you made the decision that you did.
What about a funny squeaky noise?
No.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's not acceptable.
Does anybody really have qualms with that and
No.
not understand why it's not okay? Like, for real, for serious.
Not at all.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But if you do, you have qualm, you don't want to say it in public, send me an email. Send me an email and ask me why, and we can have a discussion about it. I'm not trying to tell you to do anything that I wouldn't explain to you as to why we're doing what we're doing. This just also gives information on crisis cooling. This is a big one that I'm not seeing, but it is important to me. I'm the one doing the RMP rebates, and it's something that we need to know. It's something that is important to the eligibility of that rebate. Is if it's a crisis cooling, this is part of the tariff. The cooling needs to be cooling 80% of the dwelling, and that needs to be in the comment section for us to be approving that, because RMP is asking for that information. So FYI, guys, if you're not saying that and you're claiming a crisis cooling, you need to start saying it. Replacements should have justification. This goes back to the vague statements being unacceptable. This has references straight to the guidelines on heating, on cooling, on water heaters. What is okay and what is not. If you guys aren't familiar with the guideline, go to it, read it, know when it's justifiable to replace a system. And that information needs to be in your comments. It's important. All right, next part from everything. I'm going to speed through this because we're winding down on time. But from what everybody's told me as I've gone out and I've visited with you guys is that this has been the most useful part of the BWR guide is the Rocky Mountain Power rebate, because that can be very confusing. It really can. This does have the hyperlink right to the RMP tariff. If you have specific questions that you feel like this isn't answering, but I tried to make this section a lot more detailed. I got a lot of, as you guys probably saw earlier, as I was navigating to it, Turner started this and gave me this information, and then I was able to use it and put it right in the completion guide here. So I'm more detailed on this. I cover more, I'm more specific to help you guys understand and know when you can claim something, when you can't claim something. This is a big area that if you're going to it and it's not answering your question, please reach out to me. Please let me know. This is something I can adjust, I can change, I can reword differently if people aren't understanding it. I want it to be easier for you guys, and I want less questions back from RMP for me going, this, what is this? What is that? Because that's what happens is I am sending the packet out to RMP, and then I'll get a response from them on certain cases, and some things I can answer for myself, and sometimes I do have to reach out to you and ask. So we want those accurate rebates. So this has some specific information on the lines itself and how it looks on your BWR. And then the next, well, this is the same. And the comments, this is what I was talking about earlier, the RMP comments. This is something the RMP is specifically asked for. This isn't me just like trying to make your life harder and give you one more step to completing a BWR. This is when I send out my packet to RMP, this is the page that I'm sending them for each job that we're claiming a rebate on. So they can see the comments that are on there. And if you guys aren't putting the comments on there, when we're approving it as a state, we got to make sure the comments is on there for you to be eligible for this rebate. So if you're doing it ahead of time, if you're having it on there, we're not having to ask you to do it later. I'm not getting that email back saying, hey, I need to know, was this central AC? Was this, what kind of system was it? So that's why this is important. And then this is where I was going. We looked at this earlier, but this specifically relates to when it is eligible. That X is what you're looking for. So LEDs, we can do that in any RMP dwelling. But floor insulation, we can only do floor insulation if it's an electrically heated home. So we're looking for that. For wall insulation, It can be electric heat, it can be central air, and it could be evaporative cooling. Hopefully this is super clear for you guys. Hopefully this is something that makes sense and is helpful. Is there any particular comments or questions specifically on the RMP rebate guide? What is the question?
She's wondering, where does it say 80% in the tariff? I think she said she did a quick search and she's not seeing it.
It is in here. You know what? This is actually something, now that I'm thinking about it, now that you pose that question, I think that that was something that I had asked Brad about. And he'd explained that the tariff was kind of, I don't know what the word for it was, yeah.
The tariff assumes a lot, because if
Yeah.
I claimed all of my heating and 50% of all my heating and cooling crisis calls to RMP,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys would be paying me thousands and thousands of dollars. So, I mean, the conversation on cooling crisis, I mean, we kind of have this like gentleman's agreement on the side on that part of the tariff. So I'm just wondering if this is part of that, like it's something that isn't in the tariff, but they kind of decided in the, like, what do you want to call theme of the tariff, or
Yeah.
the
The way
intent
that I
of the
understand
tariff?
it, I think that you kind of used the perfect wording for that. It was kind of a gentleman's agreement on that, of that was the agreement. So I think you're correct, now that I'm recalling it, that it's not specifically stated in the tariff, but it was something that it was agreed upon when Brad worked with RMP on creating it.
I mean, that same thing with SEER ratings, the same, you know what I mean? Like, this is just kind of those, I mean, I just wondering where we would just follow this BWR guide and have a gentleman's agreement on this, on the tariff saying 80%.
Yeah, I was thinking there was some language in there that kind of said the majority or the primary cooling system or something, and that in order,
It does say primary quite a bit, like,
yeah,
yeah,
I
that
think in order
80%
to kind of
is
align.
huh?
Oh, sorry, you probably can't hear me very well. I think to try and align with what the tariff said and some of those gentlemen's agreements, or just Brad having been in the room and having a little better understanding of what the intent of it was supposed to be. I think that's where we came up with the 80%. But if you guys have specific questions about RMP rebates, email them to me.
Okay.
I have a point of contact with Rocky Mountain Power. He can help us. He can help us with the tariff. He can either help us give us some sort of written interpretation, or if we need to work to get the tariff clarified, we can do that. Tina, the comment that you just made about if we were going after more RMP rebates on crisis jobs, that the dollar amount would be much higher. I want to take that question to them and ask them if they care. Because the last time I met with him, I got the feeling that they have thousands and thousands of dollars more to give us if we would only apply for them. So I'm going to take that question and clarify it. But I share that one as an example. If you guys have other questions or other thoughts, we do have a relationship with RMP. We can openly ask them about some of these things and get some straight answers from them. So hopefully that'll help a little bit too as we go forward.
Richard's also got a question about the SEER 2 ratings.
Was it in the chat, or do you just want to just, okay.
It's in the chat.
All right. I'll put that in my notes and reach out to them.
Because the one on that one as well is also gentleman's agreement, right? Where we're writing that we got a better SEER rating, because that doesn't say anything in that crisis measure funding either about that.
No, that was specifically from RMP asking me to report that
Yeah.
came.
They
as
just
a
want to know.
request.
Right, but it's not in the tariff. That's
So-
another one of those things that we just kind of did as a program decided, but like you don't find that specifically named in the tariff that you need to say that it was a better SEER rating. I understand it's eligibility for the, you want to save the energy to be eligible for the rebate. So you need to document that. That's what was my understanding about the SEER
That might be
rating.
something you have to clarify, Turner, but that is something that I was asked for directly from my contact at RMP, saying that we needed this information in order for the rebate to be qualified for. So I don't know if
There's
I
a
don't-
supplement document or something. I don't know. either.
yeah, that's what I'm wondering, if there's something else there,
Yeah.
because she's saying that, the people she's submitting it to does this qualify, does this not, saying that they have to have that information to determine that.
So the tariff process is a very formal process.
Right.
And so there is going to be a certain level of things that Rocky Mountain Power is asking us to report on that are never going to make the tariff. Because I've been in the room when the committee has discussions over the tariff, and they do go back and forth a lot about whether it should even be in the tariff. And anyway, so there may be some things that we feel like are very important to get in the tariff, and we can work on putting them in the tariff. But also just knowing, there's a million things that we're asking for in our program on the BWR that we have not specifically stated in our state guidelines. So we've kind of, there's an inference that there is going to be some data needed or some necessary stuff collected that,
Right. I just want to be able to speak to the why when I'm showing somebody two documents. Here's the tariff and here's the BWR guide. This is why we do it. So that's really
to Richard's question about the SEER 2 rating. I don't know how to fully answer that, but the way that you posed it is, are they okay with the new SEER 2 ratings? I would say yes, they should be okay with them, and that they are probably going to consider them as being more accurate. So I don't see why they wouldn't be okay with them. Are you wondering if a new SEER 2 at a 15.3 is equivalent to 16 in their eyes?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking. If it
Okay.
drops the rebate down with the new SEER 2 rating compared to the old 17 SEER.
Okay, I'll have to get some answers on that one for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, guys. So I know we're just after 9 here. So if there's anybody who has to leave, I understand. You can go ahead, feel free. But we are going to do a final Kahoot that Kaya has put together, and we'll present. That's just kind of directly related to this. If you guys have any other comments, questions, anything related to this BWR guide, please reach out to me. I've asked it of you guys in person. I'm asking it of you now. Like, this document is for you. I hope that you saw some value in it. I hope that if you haven't taken the time to go in and take a look at it, you saw that for the first time. You saw that there's areas that really might help. So let's get started on the Kahoot.
This is a short Kahoot, but these are for the professionals, the ones that listen, the ones that got it, the ones that know the BWR guide. You'll be reigning champion if you win this one. All right. It's hard.
Well, I'm definitely not rooting for the minivan hater.
Ooh, that's a good one. Who did that? I like that.
It's not a good one.
But he has pancakes on his head.
Yeah,
It does
honestly,
not make it
it's
better.
what I've seen. I like the K-Dog with the mustache and the hair, the Einstein hair with the pug. It's good. I don't know how many people are here. Oh, we got 14. So And there's 28 of us on the call, so I'll wait like a few more seconds. All right, you got 5 more seconds if you want to join. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is anybody else still wanting to join? Yeah, let me know. All right. All right, we're going to start this thing. All right, this is a true or false. When a job has both heating and cooling crisis, it should be combined into one BWR submitted to the state. True or false? Blue is true, false is red. Ooh, y'all are quick. All right, so it's true. Nikole, you can correct me or add more commentary if you need.
Nope, you're good. And you're right. I'm disappointed to see 6 wrong answers, though. Come on, guys.
Remember, we don't want to double hit. Look over that BWR guide. If you have both a heating and cooling crisis, want to make sure that you submit it in the same one. We don't want to double count if it's the same project. Only one needs to be submitted, and it's the one that triggered the job. All right, next. True or false? A crisis work start date is January 23, 23. It is acceptable for the heat award date to be 12/20/2021 on the BWR. True or false? This is saying this is acceptable. So if you think it's acceptable, true is blue. If you don't think it's acceptable, false is red. You want him 2 more seconds to answer. Good job, everyone. Nikole, you want to say exactly what is acceptable? What's the best practice?
It needs to be within a year. Y'all should know that. But yes.
Yeah. But best practice is the most recent one.
Most recent.
Closest to the BWR or the award dates, or the start date. The award date should be as close to the start date as possible. Ooh, Kate keeping the lead. True or false? It is important that every BWR submitted is filled out completely and accurately. This should be an easy one. True is blue, false is red. Nice job. You do
Y'all
get
were
points
listening.
for
Yay.
faster. What must be included in every RMP rebate comments? A, what type, or I guess red is what type of cooling system is in the dwelling? How many occupants are in the building or in the home? I don't have to make comments on the RMP rebate. None of the above. Good job. It should be what type of cooling system is in the dwelling.
This, however, I'm going to make a comment on this. This is on regular comments, not necessarily in the RMP comments, on every single comment
It's true.
for every weatherization job.
Who's number one? Kate, you lost that lead. Kurt, good job. Kurt was faster. You get points for being faster, so. Kurt, we're rating champion.
Oh, the little burrow.
Shade is second, Kate is third. Good job, everybody. Who was our runners up? I don't know. I can't see him anymore.
Thank you guys for your participation. Thank you for being engaged. Please reach out. Please, please, please reach out. Questions, suggestions, anything. I am here. Any closing comments?
E and A were our runners up. Good job.
Everyone have a great day.
All right.
Go forth and conquer.
Woo.